Hey, everybody. Welcome to Jets Talk Now. I'm Paul Fiore. Thanks for joining on a Football Friday. Please click like and subscribe. We are up to nearly 400 subscribers now, so we keep growing on a weekly basis. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in, and hopefully you're enjoying the channel. Today, we are talking about Week 18, the New York Jets. The end is here. Thankfully, this hell of a football season is about to end with the Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. And apropos, it's the final home game for the Bills at their stadium before they enter their new place in 2026. The Jets come to this game 7-point underdogs, which is more a reflection on the reality that Josh Allen is probably going to play a series at most, probably to keep his streak intact, but they're going to play their backups. And so as Jet fans, there's a cringe-worthy moment in all of this, which is and there's been a few of these this season that we've been able to avoid so far. The Saints game was one of those games where you were like, oh, this could be a game the Jets could win. The Jets for the last month have been, the Jets are a terrible football team, but for the last month, they've pretty much given in to the idea that, tanking and losing is the right outcome for their future. I don't care what anybody says, but they're not starting Brady Cook because they want to win football games. So, historically speaking, though, the Jets have found ways to win games that completely make no sense to win, and this would be one of those games. This would fall right into that category. The Jets currently sit with the third draft pick in this coming draft, and I believe 18 with the Colts. Colts will probably lose this week as well, so there's a good chance that may move up for them. But Jets can't get to 1, mainly because of what happened last week and the strength of schedule. So even if they all tie, the Jets, Giants, and Raiders, the Raiders will wind up with the number 1 pick because of their strength of schedule. There is a world where the Raiders can not finish with the number 1 pick, which is an interesting thing that I want to talk about because you're going to think I'm crazy. I'd rather the Jets finish 3rd. The Giants finish with 1 and the Raiders finish with 2. And then the Jets trade up to 1. That's my actual preferred outcome. So that would require the Giants to lose, the Raiders to win, and the Jets to lose. Let's just talk about the Jets first. And we'll get to the other games. You can't go 3-13, start Brady Cook, lose historic differential point-wise in the last month of the season, acquire all this draft capital, and then win Sunday. Today's Friday. Can't win Sunday. That just can't happen. I try my best not to get upset and crash out when things bother me. This would be one of those moments on Sunday night if I'm recording a Jets victory that you might see the Italian come out in me. The old school, originally from New York, Italian. I try to take a very even keel look at this team. This season sucked. The team's terrible. I don't have a lot of confidence in Aaron Glenn right now. I'm not firing him, but I don't have confidence going into next year. But again, the minute they traded Sauce, the minute they traded Quinnen, my harsh evaluation of Glenn really kind of had a pause because I knew that the season was done for, and it really became more about accepting things. And I hate to say that I'm in an accepting mode right now, but I am. I'm accepting that Glenn gets a year 2. And now my goal is to fairly evaluate the decisions they make from now till the beginning of next year and then into the season. So season ends. What do they do with coaching changes? They better make them. They better bring in a really good defensive coordinator. They better make some changes on the offensive staff. What are their plans in free agency? What do they do with the draft? How do they address the quarterback? How do we improve the broader roster? Does Glenn learn from the mistakes he made in 2025? How does he handle the media? What is the messaging to the team? All of that stuff would be how I evaluate his year 2. And they'll reach a point where I might have a crash out and say he needs to go. And there might be a point where I go, you know what? All my negative feelings about where he was as a head coach are changing, and he deserves a year 2. Winning on Sunday would be a really, really dumb outcome because it'll just make their job that much more difficult. They could finish in the 6th spot. They win on Sunday, which would be all of a sudden they get leapfrogged by Arizona and teams like that. You cannot, under any circumstances, win this football game. And I don't care that Vegas made it a touchdown game. I have to believe that the Jets know better. And starting Brady Cook, and honestly, I would be shocked if Brees plays more than a series. They know they can't win this game. And the players are already thinking probably about vacation. So go do what you've been doing for the vast majority of the season and lose a football game. That's how I look at it. Because we're already at a disadvantage with potentially trying to get the quarterback in the draft. And, we saw some of that yesterday in the college football playoffs where 3 potential Jet targets played all on, in the 2 main windows, early game and then the afternoon game with Mendoza, Simpson, and Moore. And, if you haven't watched a lot of college football, that might have been your first or second time to get exposed to these kids, aside from maybe highlights that you have seen. I've been watching, this is probably I'm about little over 2 months, about 9 weeks of college football. I've been watching intently these guys at quarterback. So, quickly yesterday, what I wanted to see was how would these guys do with the lights brighter, and would it change any of my kind of opinion on them? And it's interesting. Dante Moore obviously has not been watched by a lot of people, I think, at least in the general kind of public, because my Christmas cup, because there was a quick judgment on him yesterday that was kind of not surprising, but it was almost like hot take-ish, which was he was not impressive. I don't see him as a top 5 pick. I'm out, right? There's a bunch of people that said that. And so I think you have to consider the circumstances. He wasn't bad and he wasn't incredible. He was fine. He game managed yesterday against a really, really good defense whose clear goal yesterday was to take away the deep ball. And Oregon had no running game whatsoever. So he was forced to basically play the short game, which he did well. I mean, he was consistent. He was accurate. He had one really nice throw late in the first half, middle to the late of the second quarter, an intermediate to deep throw on an out that was placed perfectly. That shows you kind of some of what he's capable of. But, he's not despite, I think, a guy that's pretty, I think he's not that he's overly athletic, but he's athletic enough. He's not a Justin Fields athlete, right? So he's not going to wow you with his off-schedule running and things like that. But he's got a nice arm. He can layer all throws. He makes them into tight windows when needed. But, he's a 20-year-old kid who's only started 1 season. And so that's what you saw yesterday. He made a few mistakes. The pick was a bad one. But I thought he played a good game in general against a really good defense, and Oregon won that game easily. So if you're out on Dante Moore, you probably were never really in on Dante Moore. My perspective on Dante Moore is more broadly, how does he fit the Jets? And, I tweeted this yesterday and I think context is important because there's only so much you can put in a tweet. I question Dante Moore's fit with this regime, with where we are as a team at this point, 15 years running, being a laughing stock. The best thing for Dante Moore is to go somewhere where he can sit and get a red shirt season like Patrick Mahomes did, where basically you have a good football team, a legitimate starter, borderline that you could win, maybe even 9 or 10 games like he did with Alex Smith, and then have him take over when he's ready. Dante Moore has only played a full season in college. He needs another year of development, learning the NFL game, learning defenses and the complexities with which he's going to see. The game's different. If you throw him to the deep end of the pool immediately, it's going to be ugly, in my opinion. People will point to Jackson Dart this year, but he played a ton of college football before he got to play. So he was more ready, more game ready. And so I worry that like Aaron Glenn coming off of a 3-win season with the fan base already at the peak of anger and 15-year playoff drought, an owner who's done the right thing this year, will he be willing to do it again in year 2 if this team is another 4 or 5-win team with a half-empty stadium and fans just frustrated as hell? Will he be okay with Moore just sitting a full season and learning? Will Glenn resist the temptation of turning to the savior quarterback when his job is getting really, really questioned? The Jets are not a QB development factory. So this high ceiling, low floor guy scares the hell out of me. He would be great for the Rams. Like I could see him going to like LA under McVay and sitting under Stafford and then just taking over and being good. Like look at what they did in Green Bay with Love. I mean, sat under Rodgers, learned. The time was right. They pulled the plug. Love came in. That's good. Organizations do those things. So I like the prospect. I don't know if I like the fit, if that makes sense. Because if I'm the 3rd draft pick this year, if I have the 3rd pick this year, I'm the Jets. Do I move up to 2 to get Dante Moore? Do I give up draft capital to get Dante Moore knowing that he needs to sit a full year and that it may never benefit me as a head coach and GM? I struggle with that one. So that's my eval on Dante Moore. I'm not saying he should or shouldn't draft him. I'm just saying I don't know about the fit for where the organization is. In the afternoon game, my guy Mendoza, who if you watch enough of my videos and or follow me on Twitter, I'm a big Mendoza guy. I've been a big Mendoza guy for weeks now. To me, he's the clear-cut QB1 in this draft. He would be QB1 to me last draft as well. So for anybody that wants to question whether this is a good or bad draft class, I don't care. He does so many things that make me believe he's going to be a top 10 to 12 QB in the NFL eventually, that I would probably draft him ahead of Cam Ward personally. So some of that might be controversial. Some people might think I'm stupid. That's fine. By the way, Tyler Shuck will probably be the QB rookie of the year and not Cam Ward this year. And Shuck didn't play until later. So for all of the people that will tell me I'm crazy, Fernando Mendoza has all the size. He has the arm talent. He has the brain, the processing power, and the will to be an excellent quarterback in the NFL. Just because he doesn't run like some of the best athletes at quarterback should not be a knock on his ability to develop into a top echelon quarterback. He carved up Alabama yesterday. They Opening series, they came at him. They sacked him twice. And you're like, oh, maybe this is going to be, a moment of truth for him. But he did what smart quarterbacks did. He adjusted, got the ball out quick, and then torched them every time they blitzed him. I mean, torched them. He threw 2 incompletions the entire game. He threw 3 touchdowns. He showed multiple times during that game NFL quality completions down the field. The dude is an unquestioned competitor who will leave it all on the field. And yes, I crashed out watching him yesterday, knowing that my team was in pole position to be able to get him and won games that did not matter during the season. And I want to be clear about this because I'm taking crap about this too. I don't care if you're a fan that roots for wins. That's fine. I've always been a fan that's rooted for wins until this season. I've never tanked before. But I'm 15 years of misery and not having any light at the end of the tunnel into this thing. And when you start out 0-7 and then you trade away your best players, you're telling me what you're trying to do. And so then just go all in, because the minute you did that, Glenn was getting a second year. So what am I sitting here doing? I'm not worried about them losing so many games they're going to fire Glenn. I'm not worried about them losing so many games that they're not going to have any momentum going into year 2. I'm not thinking that way. So I don't begrudge you for rooting for wins. Don't begrudge me for rooting for losses, though. So yesterday when I made a comment, I hope we were happy about our culture wins against Atlanta and Cleveland. That's not a shot at fans that were rooting for wins, as long as you weren't giving me crap for rooting for losses. I have a problem with the hypocrisy of being mad that you can't get your hands on Mendoza, but you were rooting for wins in the middle of the season and calling those of us who are rooting for losses bad fans. I think that's being a hypocrite. So I have no problem with anyone choosing to root for their team for however they want. Going to the games, spending money on this organization and this team. That's your prerogative. It's my prerogative to not or to do it. Rooting means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But if you call me out and tell me I'm a bad fan for wanting them to get the number 1 pick this year, then yeah, I'm going to be a little bit sour when the likelihood of them getting the number 1 pick is diminished by beating Dylan Gabriel in the middle of the season when it means absolutely nothing, or beating a washed Joe Flacco or Kirk Cousins. So that's where I'm at. Like, yes, it's almost impossible to go 0-17, and I'm not saying that that's what the goal should have been, but I'm not mad at the team for winning. I'm not mad at fans for rooting for it. Just don't come at me about being a bad fan. Then you're gonna get the horns. I'm gonna come back at you. So, and then in the evening game, I should say. I'll be honest, I did not watch the Georgia game, not because I didn't want to, but because I have my mother-in-law in town and we did some family stuff. So I saw highlights, and then I, of course, caught the typical hot take stuff, which is screw Dante Moore. Trinidad is our guy. He should be our second first-round pick. I'm all in, all that stuff. And so here's the deal. I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible. Here's what I'm going to say. I try to give very honest opinions based on knowledge of what I see. I didn't see enough. I saw highlights. They looked really fun. He's a fun quarterback, but I need to watch him. And so what I'm going to do with him is what I'm going to do with most of these other guys that are in this other conversation. I've paid attention all year to the guys that were considered the top tier guys, or the guys like Mendoza, Moore, and Simpson when they became top tier guys. Once the season's over, I will now turn my attention to the next tier below if the Jets are unable to get my top guy. And like I did with Dart and Shuck last year, I'll watch a lot of that stuff in between the end of the season and the draft and give my opinion one way or the other. On the surface, you see a lot of really good stuff with his arm talent and some of his skill. there's also things that scare me. He's a smaller quarterback. He's 6'1", but really probably closer to 6 feet. He goes backwards in the pocket, which leads to some really cool improvisation, fun plays in college football that most likely will never happen in the pros. Caleb did it in college. Shador did it in college. Caleb's a better athlete than Shador. This kid looks like a better athlete than Shador. But in the NFL, when you're facing defenses as fast as you start going backwards in the pocket, you're likely getting sacked. Bad things usually happen. So I'm not sure. Smaller guys who like to run typically don't have great staying power in the NFL. We'll see. So I'm going to watch his stuff. My gut reaction tells me just by nature of the style of quarterback he is, I won't put him at the top of my list of somebody that I would want to consider. But if they did draft him, where would they draft him? I don't know yet. I don't think he's a first-round quarterback. I think he's probably a day 2, day 3 QB. If he comes out, I know he's put in for a 6th year of eligibility. We'll see. But I'll have that later on during the offseason. I'll start talking about some of these other quarterbacks if the picture becomes clear that we're not getting Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, or Fernando, my guy. Right. On to Week 18 NFL picks. Man, some of these games are going to be really impossible to pick. I was 8-7 last week against the spread. That's my 3rd week in a row above 500. I was 3-1 with my best bets, the Fiore 4. Week 18 is a crapshoot. There'll be some games that are really clear indicators that it's just a preseason game, essentially. And then there are other games that have some stakes to them. So I'll try to call out the games that I would stay away from. And then I'll try to see if I can give you the games that I'm really interested in. I'm going to disclaimer right now. One of my best bets is a game that you probably will look at and question, but I have a reason behind it because it's not a big game by any means, but I just think that there's a stupidity to the line. We'll see. Anyway, game 1, Panthers at Bucks. So if we look at this, two teams kind of gone in opposite directions this year, fighting for the division. I like what Carolina has done this year. They've shown a lot of improvement. Tampa's, to me, going the wrong direction. I think that coaching staff is coaching for its jobs. And I feel like whenever you get into a situation where you have that much uncertainty in the coaching staff, even though this is a game to get you in the playoffs, there's just background noise. And with background noise, I worry about distraction. And so for that reason, I'm on Carolina this week, and I would take Carolina getting 3. But it'll be a fun game tomorrow to watch. Seattle at Niners, 2 really good football teams. Niners are getting 1.5 at home. Niners coming off a really great, entertaining win against the Bears, probably game of the year, one of the games of the year. Seahawks did that themselves recently, too, against the Rams. Would have been another game of the year candidate in the OT game. 2 high-level offenses, great tacticians calling high-powered offenses. Historically speaking, this is a game I would lean to the Niners because I've doubted Sam in the past in big moments. But he proved me wrong against the Rams. And so with that, I'm going to ride the Seahawks, giving 1.5 to the Rams because I think the Seahawks right now are a really difficult team to play. Saints at Falcons. It's interesting. Saints are a team nobody expected much from. They've been a much better team in this final stretch, mainly because Shuck has shown that he can be a good quarterback. They have something maybe for their future. I think Moore's done a nice job. Falcons, I don't know. Has Raheem Morris saved his job? Maybe. They've played much better. Kirk has looked better. They won a game I didn't think they would ever come close to winning this past week. it's an interesting game from that perspective. The old guy against the rookie. I think potentially rookie of the year candidate in Shuck. I like the Saints getting 3.5. I think it's just the line's a little bit too much for me. Browns at Bengals. Browns won their Super Bowl game last week against the Steelers at home. Steelers looked awful. Browns defense was really good. They got to play a team that was very one-dimensional. Bengals, man, they look like they're kind of a wagon right now late in the season, and their defenses looked a lot better. Burrow healthy, playing at a high level. Excuse me. I'm going to go with the Bengals minus 7.5. They're finishing really, really strong. Probably saving Zach Taylor's job too. Bad game. Packers at Vikings. Backup quarterback bowl. Nothing to play for bowl. However you want to frame it. Vikings have a really good defense that have played at a high level. And maybe that's the difference. But 7.5 is a lot of points for a team that I don't think is going to score a lot of points with that backup quarterback. So something just gives, I got to take the Packers at 7.5 in that game. Cowboys at Giants. Giants are getting 3.5 at home, which means that the Vegas expects Dak to play the full game. Because if not, then the Giants would be favorite in this game. Dart obviously going to play the full game. Giants with an easy win last week against the Raiders. Cowboys kind of a ho-hum win themselves. It's a tough game. But I think the Cowboys are a significantly better football team in general, even though they're on the road and they have nothing to play for. They've been playing hard the end of the season. And I think the Giants are going to lose that game. I think the Giants will regret winning that game against the Raiders. I don't know if they could have lost that game because the Raiders were so bad, but I see the Giants losing this football game. Titans at Jags. 13.5 is a big line, but man, the Jags are a really good football team this year, and they're proving that you can take a roster that won 4 games last year, not make a ton of changes, bring in good coaching, put in a good system, and build a winner. Bears done something similar. Bears made more changes than the Jags in the roster, but I think the Jags are going to pound the Titans this week. Colts at Texans. Texans minus 10.5. It's a big line to me. I know Phillip Rivers is not playing. He's not starting. I have a feeling he might get in the game as a kind of farewell moment. I doubt he's playing next year, right? But 10.5 is a really big line for a game that's not like all the stakes in the world type game. So I'm going to take the Colts getting 10.5, but they'll lose. Lions at Bears, kind of a nothing burger of a game. I'm going to take the Bears minus 3. Chargers at Broncos, again, another game that tells you exactly what you need to know when it comes to Chargers personnel and who's playing and who's not playing. So, you look at that game. 12.5 is a big spread, but Chargers have nothing to play for. I'm going to take the Broncos minus 12.5. Chiefs at Raiders. Sorry. As a Jet fan, I have an obvious, significant rooting interest in this game. Although maybe it's not so obvious. There are people that want. No, it is obvious because I think no matter what, if you were to ask just kind of maybe average person, they'd want the Jets to finish with the number 2 pick. And for the Jets to get the number 2 pick, because they're 3 right now, the Giants need to win and the Raiders need to lose. And that would get the Jets 2. Raiders 1, Jets 2, Giants would fall. If the Jets lose, the Giants lose, and the Raiders lose, it's status quo. My rooting interest in this game is actually for the Jets to actually stay at 3, but for the Giants to swap with the Raiders, because I actually want the Jets to trade up to 1. That's how strongly I'm convicted in Mendoza. Chiefs are playing the third-string guy. Andy Reid knows the Raiders want a quarterback. They're not playing anybody, and they're giving 5.5 points. It's too much. And I realize the Raiders are bad, but this is probably Pete Carroll's last game ever as a head coach in the NFL. If he has any semblance of understanding what's happening around him, he knows they're going to let him go. He's going to want to win the game. So I think Pete's going to play to win. And I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a close game. So I'm going to take the Raiders plus 5.5. Cards at Rams. Rams 7.5 point favorites against the Cardinals team that for some reason, rumor has it that they're bringing back Gannon. I mean, if they lose that game, isn't it like 10 straight to end the year? It's crazy to me that they're going to bring him back. I'd be so pissed off if I was a fan of that team, but hey, you do you, Arizona. I'm going to take the Rams minus 7.5 in that game. Dolphins at Pats. Ewers looked pretty good last week, right? But now you're at Patriots. Patriots minus 10.5. They're looking for the number 1 seed. It's a big spread, but hard not to kind of lean in on this one and say the Patriots are going to win that game, because they are. But will they win it by 10.5? It's a big spread. I'm going to, it's one of those games I flip-flop a little bit on, but it's just a lot of points. I'm going to take the Dolphins getting 10.5. Commanders at Eagles. Nothing to play for. Commanders and Eagles. Eagles, whatever. I'm going to watch this game, though, because Tanner McKee is one of those names you hear a lot about that I haven't watched enough of to have a real opinion on, but might become someone that shakes free as a potential bridge quarterback. And I think the Commanders are a bit of a mess, so I'm going to take the Eagles minus 4.5. And then the big night game to finish the week 18, Ravens at Steelers. Steelers are getting 3.5, probably because they look terrible against Cleveland. DK's not playing, and you'll have the overreaction to how Rodgers looked against the Browns. The Browns have one of the best defenses in the NFL. It was a division rival game, and they were on the road. So it's an overreaction to me. This is potentially Rodgers' final game. And I just don't see him going out that way. I like the Steelers getting 3.5. I think the Steelers actually win the football game. They beat Baltimore previously. I think they give Baltimore problems where Baltimore is susceptible. And I do think that Baltimore is going to do something that they should be always doing, which is feeding Derrick Henry an exorbitant amount of carries like they did last week, and inexplicably didn't do the week before. But, Lamar is playing. But it's like, who do you trust in the biggest game of the year, Lamar or Aaron? I'm going to go with Aaron. Lamar in the play. There's a playoff game. So that's how I look at it. Lamar in the playoffs has not been good. The playoff game, give me Rodgers. So the Fiore 4, my best bets. I feel good about 3 of these for sure. Steelers plus 3.5. I feel good about. Raiders plus 5.5. I'll be honest, it's probably more of a heart than it is in my head, but I just think 5.5 is too many points. And I think Pete Carroll's going to have those guys playing hard for what it's worth. Bills minus 7. I know it's going to be, Mitch Trubisky and the backups, but the Jets are putting out a JV squad right now, and I think Brees plays maybe a series. That's probably a double-digit victory easily. So I got Bills minus 7. And I feel really good about that game. And then Seattle -1.5. I think Seattle right now for me in the NFC, Seattle and the Rams are my top two teams. It could go Seattle, Rams, 49ers. I mean, like, they're all really good, but like for whatever reason, I got the Seattle and the Rams at the tier above. And the AFC right now, like, it's hard not to look at the Patriots as the most complete team. But, well, you could say Patriots and Broncos really are your top two. And I don't think you'd be wrong. But we'll see, right? So there's time for that, and we could talk about that in the future. In the interim, it's week 18. Hopefully, when I come back here on Sunday night, I'm not having to crash out about a Jets win. Please, God. If you do that to me, you hate the New York Jets. You just do. And again, maybe if you're a fan rooting for a win and to stick it to the Bills in their final home game, cool. I personally don't see the point in winning a game that will move you from the 3rd spot to the 6th spot in the draft. And if you're an Aaron Glenn fan, I think that you should want them to lose because it gives him the best chance to turn the ship around. So we'll see. I enjoyed the games yesterday, even though I'm worried I'm not going to be able to get Mendoza. But look, if I'm the Jets, if there's any chance in the world that I can get my hands on Fernando Mendoza, I'm making that move. Because if I'm Muji and Glenn, I think that guy does change your franchise. I do. I'm out there on a limb on this. So when if I'm wrong on Mendoza, I'll eat it. And I'll eat some humble pie. Because look, I'm just some regular dude who watches a lot of football and has opinions. I don't get paid. I'm not an expert, obviously. But when I look at quarterbacks, I look at the entire package, not just the physical aspect of the game. And so when I'm looking at Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, Mendoza, I'm watching them get interviewed and listening to what their mindset is. And that's why I'm so high on Mendoza. It's also why I'm a little nervous on Moore. I like Dante Moore. He's a good interview. He's a good kid. I don't know if I see that edge that you might need to play in New York. And overcome everything that is the New York Jets. He comes across a little Justin Fields-like to me, which makes me nervous. And then Ty Simpson's got a bit of that in him, but he played terrible yesterday. And then I think he cracked a rib. So, I don't know if he played terrible as much as he was. Indiana's so good, but he cracked a rib. So I don't know how I feel about Ty Simpson right now at this point. He's been so up and down all year for me. So again, as a Jet fan right now, my plan A is still Mendoza until I'm told that it's impossible. I guess my plan B right now is Dante Moore, but I'm not sold yet. And then plan C is the next tier of QBs. I guess the more I think about it, I'm probably Ty Simpson. I don't think I can take with the second first-round pick. To me, if he falls into round 2, that might be an interesting pick. And then all those other guys, I'm going to have to just do a lot more watching, not just watching their games, but watching them interview and hearing what their mindset is and how do they fit this organization. And then we'll go from there. So appreciate it, guys. Appreciate tuning in. Please click like and subscribe. I'll see you back on Sunday. And like I said, hopefully it's to celebrate the end of the season and talk about the possibilities of what the offseason brings. Have a great one. Oh, and then next week, I will have my first guest on who knows way more than I do when it comes to college football and the talent in the draft. And we'll have that conversation and how it applies to the Jets and some thoughts around the quarterbacks and the Jets season in general. So have a great one. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon.